there's just one story, and it's the fear out there in the markets. I have a simple chart, Tom. It just looks at the S&P 500 falling below its 200-day moving average. Rupert, you look at this chart, you look at Tom's chart, you look at any chart, and it screams sell. What will it take for the markets to stabilize?
Well, look, if this was a normal driver of markets, then a lot of markets would be looking pretty oversold short term. And we've seen, actually, yesterday was the first sign of real panic selling. We had relatively dysfunctional markets in high yield. We were seeing actually pretty low liquidity, even in S&P futures. Liquidity is like one of the lowest we've seen for a very long time. The problem is, while you would normally expect people to start stepping in and trying to look for entry points, the problem is the driver is not a normal driver. We are still being buffeted every few hours by the news flow on this virus. And the problem is I don't see any reason why that is going to stop. Where we were at the beginning of the week on Italy, we now are with Germany, France, Switzerland. And I think one of the very significant things is we have still seen very limited news in the US. A lot of people, I think, very worried as we head into the weekend. We woke up, Monday morning, this week dealing with the Italy news. What's the news that we're going to be dealing with on Monday? So I still think that we are still very defensively positioned, see this as still a very fast-moving situation.
How do you monitor it? Right. I mean, do you monitor, what are the selling signals? Is it infected cases?
So the interesting thing is this week has seen a massive transition. So last week, everyone was fixated on the China data, right? We had put together a huge effort within BlackRock to look at real-time big data indicators of what was going on in terms of activity with China, whether that's pollution, traffic flows, heat maps around key facilities. China is not the story anymore. The market is now trying to price a global pandemic, and therefore we are dependent on news from governments and health authorities about cases, about policy responses, and I think that you look at these curves in countries, like I say, France, Germany, like the big economic players in Europe, and I think increasingly the US. We are still on the accelerating phase of these curves.